Let's talk about this week's episode of WWE Raw, following up on SummerSlam, which took place Saturday. A lot of stories that you would think you had to have some answers to or see the direction that they're going. Good episode of Monday Night Raw. I'll just say that here at the top.
Well, you could have just said it was a touching episode, see, and you would have saved all that extraneous, roundabout your elbow to get to your wrist verbiage you went through there. But Brian, you are the maestro of the Google machine. They were in Baltimore for Monday Night Raw on August the 5th, but it was on Sci-Fi instead of USA while they last there because of the Olympics. So the point is, I think I saw they did like 1.7, 1.8 million people. I remember one time they went to Sci-Fi and it was pretty goddamn empty. Is that some type of major accomplishment?
Well, again,
or am I misremembering?
Well, this week versus last week, according to WrestleNomics, last week did 1.4 million approximately. So it's up from that 22%. It's down only 1% from the trailing 4 weeks. That includes USA Network, obviously. 1.724 million viewers.
And somebody out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when they were preempted or went to Sci-Fi, as they say, within the last year or something, the last time or whatever, they didn't do 1 million people. So that ain't bad. And when you think about what they would have done in their regular time slot for the Raw after SummerSlam, they couldn't have been particularly pleased up in Stamford.
Oh, and by the way, according to WrestleTix, Raw on the 5th in Baltimore at the CFG Bank Arena, 11,171 tickets distributed. Looking market-to-market comparisons here, that's the highest ticket sale count at least since 2021, if not before then, including Ring of Honor, AEW, and, of course, WWE.
Yeesh. Was that the old Civic Center, the Baltimore Arena? Have they just renamed it again? It looked like that building. That's a great building for wrestling. Or did they build a new one since I've been gone? What is the history of the?
I'm trying to.
The fucking goofball Coliseum. Well, I can't even remember the name that you called it. You can remember Baltimore Civic Center, Baltimore Arena. What is the goddamn building that we're talking about here again
This is the CFG Bank Arena.
CFG Bank Arena.
It originally opened October 23rd, 1962 as the Baltimore Civic Center.
Okay, I recognize that building anywhere. 11,100 ain't bad. It's not fucking Crockett Promotions 86 levels, but we'll give it to them. They had to get a little bit more equipment into the building.
But again, it's up over everything else. They ran there 1 year ago, approximately. Last July 3rd, we were talking about how hot they were then, they did 10,343. So they're up from even that.
Yes, and I was being facetious also. Yeah, because, again, they're doing record fucking business, and I can't say that they didn't give us anything this week because they had a great angle. It showed. I can only think if they could have done that for Bronson Reed when we first saw him instead of dicking around for a year and a half or whatever. But it was talking about things that these people are going to want to go home and pay to see. They're watching on Peacock or pay-per-view or whatever. And, but it was good. And I'm amazed at how they're getting the most out of the least, and everything makes sense, and they got multiple ways to go and multiple new names to bring in. And Tony Khan thinks his goddamn newest hologram gimmick is going to be, the big game-changing item. They're on a whole different fucking trajectory at this point. And they opened a program with Gunther, who looks great. He's got heat. But also they were chanting, "You deserve it," because they couldn't. You can't not. He looks like, the biggest goddamn bully, nerd, obnoxious, foreign fuck. in that suit, and he's got the belt, and also they know he's good, right? But he did a good heel promo and established himself as the world champion and said, I'm ready for everything. And then Randy Orton's music plays. And here he comes, and he's over, and the fans are singing about his voices in his head. And they refer to, remember at the King of the Ring tournament where they kind of fucked it up more or less, and they've made something out of it. Orton's shoulders weren't down when Gunther won, or elsewise he wouldn't have got the title shot and be the champion now, right? And they just referred back to Triple H knows there needs to be a part 2, and Orton's there tonight to call that in. And he said the fans deserve a modern Flair versus Steamboat. I don't know, as much as I like both these guys, if I'd say that's a modern Flair versus Steamboat, or is it a modern Gene Kiniski versus Bob Orton Jr.?
You know, that's a that's a very interesting way to put it. There's nothing Flair Steamboat about it. And that's not to disrespect Gunther or Randy Orton, but you can't.
Well, no, it's like, you know, the Rolling Stones have very few similarities to the goddamn Led Zeppelin. We're not talking about who's the best band. Just they're different people. But anyway, at Bash in Berlin, Orton's going to walk out the new World Heavyweight Champion. He gets the Randy chance. And then Gunther said, your voices in your head are wrong. And they just accepted and shook hands. And Gunther said, nothing catches me out of nowhere. And Orton says, I want you to see it coming. And the people, and that's all they need to say right now. Nobody jumped anybody and beat the shit out of anybody. But at the same time, both guys were halfway serious and professional in what they were doing. So, okay, let's see where this goes all the way to Bash at Berlin. Couldn't it at least have been the Great Berlin Bash?
No, that's too far. Is he German? I thought they made him Austrian. They made him German? I don't even remember.
Well, nobody, here's the thing. Yes, he is, I think, from Austria, actually, or whatever, but we're talking about wrestling, and the audience is primarily for this program in the United States, and we don't, if you speak German or something that sounds like German, we don't fucking know as a country. Austria and Germany and Switzerland's over there too, because they both yodel, right? See, we're geographically challenged in this country.
So they cheered him here and said, you deserve it. What's it going to be like when he's the babyface on that show?
Well, that's the thing. And then the announcers, Cole, whoever the fuck, can go, oh my God, Orton's stepping into a viper's nest. It looks like the fucking, Nuremberg trials or whatever the fuck. And because they're going to bring the fucking house down for Gunther. But Orton not only is the babyface here, but also Orton's so smart and so smooth. He will be able to be the heel to those people without being the heel to the American people with the shit he does in the match. I bet you. Watch and see. I dare you.
Well, we shall see. We wondered where they were going to go with Gunther. Our eye opined, I hope it's not Jey Uso, and apparently it's not right now. I'm not terribly excited about him and Randy Orton. Now, Randy Orton needs something to do. This is pulling him away from Cody and all that stuff. It's interesting because he was last seen fighting off with Tama Tonga, whatever it was. Right? And then all of a sudden he's on a different show. It's like he's in a different universe all of a sudden. We'll see. I mean, you need Gunther to get some big wins to establish him as the world champion, and it still means something to beat Randy Orton, and you got to think Randy's not going to beat Gunther for the belt right now. So it sets up Gunther for bigger things.
Well, but at the same time, we're not going to get a long protracted. The reason for this is because they want as big a star as they can get against Gunther in Berlin. And so they've come up with this, and I wouldn't be surprised if something immediately or either doesn't happen in that match or shortly after or whatever the case, to where Orton's attention is diverted and he's off on another quest or back to the bloodline or whatever the case, without pursuing Gunther anymore, and Gunther goes on to other things as well. But in the meantime, they've got Gunther and Orton in Berlin at a big event, and what time is that going to be here in the good old USA? 1 o'clock on a fucking Thursday, or when is that?
I'm not exactly sure. We'll check into it. It's interesting just the amount of shows now coming from not just Europe, but all over the world. Saudi Arabia, Australia, France, England, Wales.
Bosnia.
They haven't done Bosnia yet. That'll be a big risk, that show. But they're coming from Canada. Can't forget Canada. They haven't done a Mexican pay-per-view yet. But it's kind of crazy to think that, Raw is now for the domestic events and the pay-per-views are now for international. And WrestleMania hasn't gone to London yet, but that's coming.
Well, and that's the thing. This is another example of Vince being gone. And the new company, and so many of them also have experience with the UFC, they're used to already doing a lot of international shows. And Vince never wanted to do his biggest shows anywhere but in the United States because of the time zone difference, when so much of his income depended on the pay-per-view revenue. And now that most of that is guaranteed, pay-per-view revenue is negligible compared to Peacock and rights via blah, blah, blah. Now these people are going, let's get the mega gate in whatever, major metropolis around the world, and rights fees from the city and this and that, and it'll be on Peacock. And if they don't want to watch it at fucking 3:00 in the morning, they can watch it later on. It's a whole different thing. And Vince's opinions, which were valid at the time, are gone, and they can make more money this way than by having people actually watch this shit. Which, that is brilliant, Brian, when you think about it.
Yeah, the pay-per-view income's been replaced by the live gate.
And at the same time, if they go to different places around the world that are major urban centers and not only get paid by these cities to come, but then jack up the ticket prices, because you ain't gonna see this again, folks, for who knows how long. And it doesn't matter whether anybody watches the shit anymore or not. Even though they are, because it costs what is Peacock now? Are they still $5 a month, or is it $9.95 or whatever? For that, you get everything that a human being could be strapped to a chair and watch for 24 hours a day for a year. Moving on to Raw. Did you watch Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser?
A little bit, and just because I had a lot of editing and stuff to do, I didn't give it the attention it deserved. But the last time they wrestled on Raw, I really liked the match.
They're wonderful athletes. I didn't have time either. And for the same timing reason, there was another Wyatt's video, VHS, whatever, that So we got to... Go ahead.
Should they introduce as one of their characters their editor? Like, should it be all the different creatures and then, like, the guy who actually is going to put together this faux VHS look?
Well, no, because nobody would believe that they actually have an editor and they're not doing this themselves on an old VHS machine. I did better work on VHS than this. Let's move on to Damian Priest and see what he has to say for himself. Because I think Priest is trying to do the promo now as a babyface, and the fans are now my new family. And Finn took the title from all of us, and I come from the streets. He was like the fetish Undertaker last year, and now he's a street guy. He's still trying to find it, and he was calling out Finn, and he was pissed. And then Finn comes out on the screen, or comes up on the screen, and Do you think now Priest is like being overly please like me kind of thing? What's going on? What's clicking or not clicking for you?
I think too much talking is not clicking. I think he's not one of the guys that needs to talk too much. He's got a deep voice. He
Yeah.
could sound like a badass, and he gets over when he's just being a badass. But we've seen from the Judgment Day, and the only one it's really worked for, because it hasn't hurt her, is Rhea Ripley. But too much of the going from this, yo, let me talk to you. Like, no one wants to see the sensitive shit or any of that stuff from a top babyface. He needs to now be a bigger badass than he's ever been. Because he's a babyface on his own, although I guess him and Rhea still have a thing that they're doing together. But he really and they got rid of the purple. That's a good step. I know it sounds like a joke, but I'm serious. Getting rid of the purple, going to all black, makes him look like a little bit more of a badass. Less talking, more action.
Well, but I guess that's the thing, is that now he's out there. Suddenly he's pleading his case as to why the people should like him because he's one of you and it's almost, you can tell he's trying, and you shouldn't have to tell he's trying. He gets so wordy and he's so polite and reasonable and level-headed about things, right? He is a very understanding Judgment Day clubhouse president or whatever he was.
But no one ever comes out there and acts like they have self-confidence.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And then he spends all his time calling Finn out, then pleading his case and calling him out again. And then Finn pops up on a screen and says, hey, you brought it on yourself. You won the title and became the leader. Well, I waited to get even from last year or whatever the fuck. And it's like, there's Damian Priest with his dick in his hand in the ring. He screamed, come out here, you son of a bitch, come out here. And the guy's like, fuck you. You fight my fucking little stooge, JD, tonight. It's just, poor Damian Priest does not feel like Damien the Omen, right? He's not menacing. He kind of just gets left standing at the altar a lot, or standing around. Anyway, tonight they're going to fight, him and JD Priest, that is. And by the way, and there's Carlito and Dominic and Liv and JD are all with Finn. So they've traded the only fucking guy over 6 feet tall in the whole group. Well, no, I take it back. Dominic is a tall young man. Did you watch any of Shayna versus Lyric Valedictorian?
In the background on mute.
That's the best way to do it. But it ended up a bunch more girls ran in and they had a big 6-way girl fight thing going on. And then they did the final testament video. I think old Karrion Kross has done something different again with his hair. What happened to this guy? Was it just...
He met a barber and they formed a very close relationship.
Well, was it in NXT that we said, there might be something with this guy, and he's been the most boring fucking, and his group is, and the whole thing is, and the parts that aren't are more like.
Okay, I don't know what you're doing. Has Paul Ellering ever said less? What is he being paid to do exactly?
He's a very conversational fellow when you sit down with him, but you wouldn't know it because he's on TV playing the part of a mute. And
when's the Iditarod start?
I don't think he's done that since he froze his eyeball that time.
What?
You never heard that?
I don't know if I know that story. No.
Oh, goddamn it. Well, the Iditarod, and you may even have to Google this now, but the Iditarod, to make sure I got all the details. For the uninitiated, the Iditarod is some kind of goddamn endurance race that people would undergo up in, was it Alaska or the Antarctic, some cold fucking place where they do a dog sled race and then some other kind of activity. Have I given you enough time to look it up?
The Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, more commonly known as the Iditarod, is an annual long-distance sled dog race held in Alaska in early March. There's the answer. It travels from Anchorage to Nome. Mushers and a team of between 12 and 16 dogs, of which at least 5 must be on the tow line at the finish line, cover the distance in 8 to 15 days or more. What does that mean? Wait, at least 5 must be on the tow line at the finish line.
5 of the dogs have to make it.
So you're going to have a bunch of dogs die on the way?
Apparently.
That sounds awful.
Because people sometimes do, don't they? Have they had fatalities or just major physical fucking malfunctions?
The Iditarod began in 1973 as an event to test the best sled dog mushers and teams, but evolved into today's highly competitive race. Let me scroll down, see if there's a section on Wikipedia on death, restart,
injuries,
last dash,
organs shutting down,
dogs, criticism. Animal protection activists say that the Iditarod is not a commemoration of the 1925 serum delivery, and that the race was originally called the Iditarod Trail Sepala Memorial Race in honor. I don't know what the fuck's happening here.
Well, they started this thing because apparently this was the way that they long ago, in whatever year you just described, they were able to get some type of medical fucking serum across the goddamn frozen areas of wherever the fuck.
Well, would you like to hear some of the winners?
Sure, go ahead.
Would you like to hear the musher or the lead dog?
Well, I give the credit to the dog, but I'll take the musher too for comparison.
In 1973, the first time, Dick Wilmarth and Hotfoot.
Which was the dog?
That was the dog.
That was the dog.
The next year was Carl Huntington and Nugget. Emmett Peters in 75 with Nugget and Digger. So two lead dogs. Gerald Riley, representing the USA the next year, with Puppy and Sugar, followed by Rick Swenson with Andy and Old Buddy.
Wait a
Dick Mackey.
Can you imagine? Wait, hold on. Puppy and Sugar pulling a dog sled?
Frozen Puppy, Frozen Sugar. Dick Mackey in 78 with Skipper and Shrew. Followed in 79 by Andy and Old Buddy. Once again, wow, 2-time winners, Andy and Old Buddy with Rick Swenson. 1980, Joe May had Wilbur and Cora Gray. In 81, Rick Swenson's back. This time, he does not have Andy and Old Buddy. He's got Andy and Slick. And in 82, he wins once again with Andy and Rex Burkhead. Followed by Rick Mackey's reappearance with, oh no, that was a different Mackey before. There's a new Mackey, an all-new Mackey
in town
with Preacher and Jody. Followed by Dean Osmar with Red and Bullet. Libby Riddles had Axel and Dugan. Followed by Susan Butcher, a woman who won this, with Granite and Maddie. They were return winners in 87, and 88, she won again. Maddie must have died. It's Granite and Tolstoy.
Oh.
Followed by Rambo and Furlan.
And wait a minute, this woman won I'd hate to fucking meet this woman in 3 times. I'd hate to meet her in a light alley.
Well, actually, in 1989, Joe Runyon won with Rambo and Furlan the Husky, but Susan Butcher...
wait a minute. Don't just gloss over that. Furlan the Husky?
Furlan the Husky.
Do you think she was sued by the estate of Furlan Husky?
Well, Susan Butcher was back the next year in 1990. Granite and Tolstoy no longer there. She had Sluggo and Lightning. Rick Swenson's back in 91 with Goose, followed by Martin Busser with Tyrone and D2.
Tyrone and D2? I thought that was a rap group.
Jeff King in 93 showed up with Herbie and Kitty, followed by the return of Martin Busser with D2 and Dave.
Hey, wait, Dave replaced Tyrone?
Dave replaced Tyrone. We remember Tyrone here today. In 95, we had Vic and Elmer with Doug Swingley. And then the next year, Jeff King with Jake and Booster, followed by Martin Busser's back with Blondie and Fearless. Jeff King had Red and Jenna, followed by Doug Swingley with Stormy, Cola, and Elmer. He was back again the next year with just Stormy and Cola. Elmer is gone. And he was back the next year with just Stormy and a new dog, Peppy. Martin Booster's back with Bronson, followed by Robert Sorley and Tip. Mitch Seavey in 2004 with Tread, followed by Robert Sorley once again with Socks and Blue. Jeff King with Salem and Bronte, followed by a run of dominance from Lance Mackey, Larry and Lippy, followed by Larry and Hobo, followed by Larry and Maple, and then Maple. And then the next year...
Wait a minute, Mr. Mackey won 4 times in a row?
He won 3 times in a row. 4 times in a row.
4 times in a row for Mr. Mackey.
4 times in a row, followed by John Baker with Velvet and Snickers. Dallas Seavey as Guinness and Diesel, followed by Mitch Seavey. I don't know if there's a relation. I'm going to guess there is. With Tanner and Taurus. Dallas is back the next year with Beetle and Reef. And then again the next year with Reef and Hero. And then again the next year with Reef and Tide. Followed by Mitch Seavey with Pilot and Crisp. Joar Leifstedt Ulsham.
Oh, come on!
Was there the next year with Russerfin and Olive.
Russerfin and Olive.
Followed by Peter Kaiser with Marrow and Lucy. Thomas Warner with K2 and Bark. Dallas Seavey's back with North and Gamble. In 2022, Brett Sass, Morello, and Slater, followed by Ryan Reddington with Ghost and Sven. And finally, this past year, Dallas Seavey once again with Sebastian and Arrow in 9 days, 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 8 seconds.
Who are these Seavies? They're just, is this the same 4 people trying to vie for the top spot every year?
I just clicked Dallas Seavey, the most recent winner. Seavey's grandfather, Dan Seavey, competed in the first 2 Iditarod sled races, as well as 97 and 2012. Geez, that's a big jump. His father also competed in multiple Iditarods, so he's a legacy.
Yeah, there's something in that family. Bet they're fun at fucking holidays.
No Paul Ellering.
Oh, but, Paul didn't win. I never said he won.
You said so you're calling him a loser. I see what's going on.
No, I'm saying he came in after first. But what I'm saying is that while he was doing this, and obviously Paul is now 70, I guess, or thereabouts. So this was 25, 30. I can't remember what year it was. Many years ago, besides being a bodybuilder at one time, and besides being a power lifter, and besides he's a very driven individual, and he's from Minnesota, so he's Minnesota, as Arn would say, so he's used to the chilly weather. He started doing the fucking dog sled racing and did the Iditarod. And during the race, his eyeball froze. That's actually just what happened. Because your eyeball has a lot of liquid. It's a lot of moisture, right? And it was so fucking cold, and he's racing the dog, and whatever they're doing, they're running across the fucking fjord, or whatever the fuck goes on in the goddamn Arctic. And his eyeball froze, and they somehow had to treat him for a frozen eyeball so he didn't go blind. It doesn't sound like a goddamn...
Did he have a frozen tongue and go mute? He hasn't said a word in WWE.
Well, no, they've thawed him out since then. That's why it's so perplexing that, maybe the cat got his tongue. I don't know. But he had a frozen eyeball is where I was going with that when we heard 35 fucking years of goddamn dog sled winners. And I was thinking, what was the thing I was thinking about? The Iditarod's just a dog sled, but they have a something rod, not a golden rod or a lightning rod, but where they do the triathlon. It's not a rod. It's a reel. It's a lawn where they do multiple things in a row. Why are you laughing? Help me.
It's a lawn.
Throw me a line and pull me up and explain to the people what I'm saying. It's a multiple sport competition where you run and then you throw and then you puke or whatever you do in these things. He may have done that too.
Well, the point is, no matter what he's done in the past, I mean, at this point, maybe Final Testament would be more effective if they all wore Zubaz. I don't know. But is any of this working? And
No.
what is he? And again, what is he doing there? He used to manage Occam and Razor when they were employed a few years ago. When they came back, he came back. All right, some continuity. Now he's with Cross and Scarlett. Scarlett doesn't say a word. Cross does all the talking for everyone. Ellering's just an old guy making mean faces. At least his voice and his words could get him over as being... I don't know what. It's not like he's going to take a bump or anything. I don't know what this is.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that Cross does all the interviews. Problem is not well because there's something just not there with him. And he's trying so hard to be some kind of spooky Rob Zombie-like, fucking cult leader or something. And I would think they would be able to find something else for Scarlett to do. She's a very attractive young lady. But either she is completely incapable of wrestling or speaking or anything else, announcing, backstage interviewer, whatever the fuck. And she's just in that. I don't know why. And I appreciate your nod to continuity from 5 years before when NXT was not even publicized at the level it is today. But that's bringing Paul. I'm not even saying Paul Ellering shouldn't have a job. I'm saying bringing him back simply to put him in the corner of these two fat schlubs that aren't worth a shit just because he was with them in developmental several years ago is stretching continuity to its breaking point. And these two guys, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but they ain't it, fam, as I've seen people say on Twitter. And so it's bleh. It's bleh. Wait a minute. It's.
What was that?
That's why it's bleh.
Was it?
What it is.
All right.
No, it's even worse.
Oh, I just dropped it. Ah, man, it is even worse. Between this, the Bray Wyatt stuff, House of Black. Remember AEW had like another Wyatt family ripoff, like a guy with dreads and like a wacky inpatient, whatever the fuck they were.
Oh, yeah. Where did they go?
They're probably on Collision or Ring of Honor or one of the shows that no one watches.
No. You don't even... Vinny and Dutch.
That's their name. Yeah.
You don't even see those names anymore.
What were they? Were the Rejuvenated? What, they had a name though. What were they? The
Repopulated.
The Repeal. The Repeal.
The Replete. Repeal. Replenish.
The Replete.
Well, the point is, what did they get sentenced somewhere?
I don't know, but do you think, and who knows what the fuck is going on in like a TNA or MLW or NWA, but there aren't too many bookers with like a backbone or good instincts, it seems like at times. Do you think the idea that, do you think these spooky gimmicks are kind of done because they've been overdone for a long time? They've been going back many years, but there's never been the amount of them on national TV. There's never been the amount of people who need smoke on national TV than there is right now.
There may have been the amount of people that were using smoke.
That's a different story.
But not ones that need it in their presentation. Yeah, and I mean, and Vinny and Dutch, to be fair, they were just kind of weird fellows and not really in any supernatural vein. But with the Wyatts and the House of Black, because the Bohemian Rhapsody entrance and the fucking, teleportation and the constant darkened rooms. And then you have, this fine group, the Final Testament. It's like everybody's vying to be, the Omen Part 10, the Final Test, the Omen Part 11, the fucking. So and most of the time, I know the people love the Wyatt deal and Bray Wyatt, who was the innovator of it, originator, whatever. But a lot of this other stuff is just people fucking doing promos in dark rooms, isn't it? It doesn't have any kind of level of where is the House of Black? Where is what is the girl's name that was with the House of Black?
Julia Hart.
Julia Hart. That we said, boy, get her away from the House of Black because she looks like something. Where'd she go?
They got her away from the House of Black and they got her off TV. No, I think she got hurt. Didn't she get injured?
Oh, good Lord.
I think she got hurt. Not just hurt feelings from being in the House of Black, but that's the point. If you're like Malachi Black and you're sitting there conceiving of the House of Black, you're coming up with this idea. Don't you look around and say, there's too much other shit. We got to shift. Maybe we should be like international kickboxers who are weird or something. I don't know.
Well, no, because a lot of people say, but we'll do it right.
Yeah.
And then they proceed to do it wrong in a different way.
Remember, that was the rumor too when Judgment Day first started, that Adam Copeland, the Edge at the time, the reason they removed him from the group was it was going to go supernatural and he didn't want anything to do with it. And then they never did. They just replaced him with Finn Balor and got him out of the group. It never changed at all.
And then he goes to the home of the supernatural over there. Nevertheless. Would you like to move on to the 9 o'clock hour?
Absolutely. There's no reason why we just went as long as we did about Final Testament, but it was fun.
Well, it was mostly about the Iditarod, so it worked.
Well, we learned something.
But then came 9 o'clock, like Mussolini at Sabatino's, ordering the garlic bread. 'Cause he was right down the road from Little Italy. Like Mussolini.
Oh, come on.
Well, see, you got the fucking tie-in there, but you got Mussolini down the road from Little Italy.
They kicked his head down the street. There's the tie-in.
Well, and then they fried it up and served it over at Sabatino's. Boy, I'll tell you, the fucking Mussolini's head fucking soup, it was excellent. No, you realize right there at the Baltimore Civic Center, Baltimore Arena, the fucking Porter Paints fucking Memorial Coliseum, whatever they fucking call it these days, is like 2-3 miles from Sabatino's, from the whole Little Italy area. Every time we would go to Baltimore, and we didn't have to jump right back onto Crockett's plane and get the fuck out of there, we would go and have our Italian food. And then if we were getting on the plane, Flair started giving $100 to Freddie Floyd, the fucking pilot, and say, go get us a bunch of Sabatino. 40 years ago, $100 would get you a lot of Sabatinos. But anyway, we're back to Punk's interview.
But when that food turned on you, it was sabotage.
Oh, come on now. I was never saboteured by Sabatinos. It was merely a rumor. I think it was actually the stuff I had at the airport earlier that day. Anyway, here comes CM Punk. He gets the big chance. He does the in-ring promo. He congratulates the new UFC welterweight champion, whose name I could neither spell nor transcribe quickly enough. And then he did the promo to try to redeem his image from the loss at SummerSlam, which a good babyface is going to do, where he doesn't make excuses for it, but he instead finds something positive to begin as a motivation to still succeed in his goal, which is basically, I'm proud of myself because when I got hurt, they said I'd be out 9 months, and I made it back in 5. Every time I get knocked down, I get back up, and I'm happy because I'm back. Even though I've started at the bottom before, I've gone back to the top, and my summer of hate has started, and I want round 2. Then, I mean, what else are you going to say? Because he did lose the match. So as he's mea culpa'd, and he's also said, I want round 2 with Drew McIntyre, immediately fucking Seth Franklin Rollins' music hits, and Punk, and son of a, which I thought was, because everybody just stands there like they either expected it or what took you so long, I gave you the cue 10 seconds ago or whatever, but somebody actually looked pissed off to be interrupted when they were in the middle of saying something. Is that just me?
No, I don't think that was just you.
What about you?
What about me?
Was it you just thinking it was just me?
Was it me thinking that I was upset he was interrupted?
Well, I was looking back to see if you were looking back to see if I was looking back to see if you were looking back at me. And I think it's a nice touch. And it was also a nice touch as I pound my pen for emphasis on the desk and drive you out of your mind, that Seth came out with his game face on and semi-normal clothing that would be worn potentially by somebody on the street. I don't know what kind of neighborhood it would be, but it wasn't fucking over-the-top ridiculous, because they're about to have a fight, and Seth just comes in after 10 years, it's time for me to put you in the dirt. And right as they're squaring off, you hear Drew McIntyre's voice. And the spotlight, and he's up in the bleachers where he's way away from them. And he's cutting a promo on them while they're still squared off looking at each other. But then Drew shows the bracelet, Punk's bracelet, and Punk at that, he fucking loses it and bails out and starts running up the stairs. And both of them are gone. And there's Seth standing in the ring with absolutely nothing to do. Before we go any further, Brian, would you like to comment before we enter Act 2 of this fucking play here? Would you like to comment on what had gone on up to that point?
As I said the other day during the SummerSlam review, I can watch Punk and Drew McIntyre seethe at each other forever and be happy. It's great. It feels real because a lot of it is. It has brought out the best in Drew McIntyre. It's brought out the best in CM Punk. Rollins has been kind of the third wheel who has raided his wife's closet. But they did an angle here that was, I mean, we'll talk about it shortly. They did an angle here that was one of the best things he's done in a while. But with Punk and Drew, it's been the best feud in WWE in 2024.
And we were talking about on several of the recent shows, they've got all kinds of different ways that they can go. So they got this with Seth as the referee. And now, as I said on last week's show, or the show we did last, not even a week ago, that now they can still have Drew and Punk in a rematch because it hasn't been spoiled. All the things they can do in a regular match, a singles match with a regular referee, because Seth was involved. Now Seth is fixed to go off in another direction, apparently, but they still have yet to have Punk and Seth that they can have any time because people would love to see it.
See, that's why I hated Seth as the guest referee there. To me, the way everything was built up, like Punk and Drew just had to kick the shit out of each other. And they did for like the first 30 seconds. And then it became a wrestling match.
Yeah, but okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's just my thing. I thought, based on how heated it's been, how personal it's been, Rollins being in the middle of it took away, I guess, just took away from what I wanted it to be, because it's not like it's not working the way they've done it. But I thought that match, that's the only reason I was a little disappointed with that match. I thought that had to be like, you know, balls to the wall. Both guys hate each other. Both guys want to end each other.
And I bet you that the next one will be more of that. But because this one, the referee got in the way and they couldn't do it. Because if they'd have done it the first time, then what would they do in the second one? Cut off another fucking arm with a chainsaw? So people still want to see him fight, but goddamn,
go in opposite order.
They wanted to see Seth be the referee because they figured, this will be wild. And now they get that fucking Seth out of there. We want a regular referee and stipulation or whatever. And they want to see it again.
Well, the only way it would have worked is if it went the other way and they had a match where it got too out of hand the first match. And now you need a special guest referee for the second match.
Well, yeah, but then we'd have seen the first match.
Yeah.
And then the second match would have been more boring than the first match. So this way, the second match will be more exciting than the first match.
Where is the second match? It's in Germany?
Well, we don't know yet. I don't believe they said specifically. Punk said, I want round 2. I don't remember Drew saying, well, we're goddamn going to exactly have it on such and such a date. But nevertheless, We will find out. And in the meantime, there was Seth standing in the ring doing nothing, and suddenly Bronson Reed, boom, levels him and starts dropping him, bam, 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 with big moves, and then splashes him off the top rope, and then keeps splashing him off the top rope. And the agents run in, and the referees run in. And he keeps going back to the top for another splash, one right after. I think there was probably 6 or 7 at least. And they were creating a sense of urgency. And they were also milking it so you thought that every time you were seeing the last one, but they'd go a little further and then they'd come back. Or he'd break free or he'd decide to do it again. And the people got caught up in it. Yes, Seth is a babyface, but they're still like, holy shit, give him another one, right? Because they couldn't believe what they were seeing. But it was chaos. It was like an old Vader angle or an old Attitude Era angle or an old Mid-South Wrestling angle where you could believe that people were really worried about this fucking guy. And after the almost all of them, maybe right before the last 2 splashes, you see Seth spitting up blood, and not too much where it looks like he guzzled a fucking quart of cherry Kool-Aid mix or whatever, but enough to be believable as bloody fucking phlegm clots or whatever. So, I mean, this was fucking great. And they haven't done anything or few things to help me, Brian, remember one in the last, I don't know how long, that were just this oomphy. You know what I mean?
You know, they set it up earlier in the night where Bronson Reed was talking to Pierce, and Pierce is saying, like, show me something, prove something. And look at what he does. This was more effective than if he had gone out there and done it with a chair, or put him through a table, or done something with the commentating table again.
Yeah.
This was him using his splash over and over again, and it got over with the live room. They were reacting exactly how you'd want them to react. And I thought everyone did a great job here, and this was by far the best thing they've done with Bronson Reed on the main roster. It's a shame it took them 2 years or whatever to get there, but this was the best thing they did. He has to beat Rollins, because if he loses to Rollins, he's back to where he was. But let's see where they go with it. The best thing they've done with him, and this was tremendous. And again, the fans reacted to it there, which made it even better.
And when we talk about how to debut a monster heel or how to get a monster heel over, or I've used the phrases creating a sense of urgency, or, you know, really putting a babyface in jeopardy and making an impact. This is the kind of shit I'm talking about. And it ain't that hard to lay out. Sometimes, depending on who you've got involved, it's a little harder to perform. But it's simple and it's believable, but it's impactful, and people go crazy over it because you are portraying it as something that they should be taking seriously. Instead of, you know, stunts and winks and cheering for, oh, look, they're going to break something. It's just a guy hurting a fucking guy. And then you can break it down into the guy that I don't really like is hurting the guy that I do like. So I have a negative response to that on a visceral level. Fuck, it's not that difficult, but everybody wants to do the triple Lindy through a goddamn Home Depot. And then it just becomes meaningless because people can't identify with that. But the point is, they made a simple angle effective to get a monster over because it was believable and everybody seemed upset about it on the spot and were trying to stop it and created a sense of urgency. And one more thing, I agree and disagree with you about the Punk and Drew and Seth as referee thing or whatever in some places and others. But if you've got SummerSlam and you've got a 60,000 seat arena or stadium full and all of the other attention, I would want to see, I would want to be able to sell as a promoter Seth as the referee between Punk and Drew because it was hot and it worked. It worked in the program of the thing.
Should they be planning before too long a big show in Chicago around Punk?
Probably, because Drew went to the castle, and does any place claim Seth? Where is he? He's from Iowa. Unless they run a cornfield, he may be out of luck on a hometown fucking deal, but yeah. Because then can you imagine, especially if it was with Drew, what kind of molten level heel Drew would be?
Wrigley Field.
There you go. Gotch and Hackenschmidt, Punk and McIntyre.
And a big fuck you to Comiskey Park. That's right.
Yeah, fuck Comiskey.
Well, that was Bronson. Do you agree though?
Yes.
Best thing Bronson Reed has done in WWE?
Well, yes, that's why I said I wish they'd have done it when we first saw him, and we would have no preconceived notions about who this guy was. If you saw him basically first or very early on, the first week or two, first time he got physical with somebody, that was it. You'd think, holy shit, this guy's fucking Andre the Giant.
Yeah, again, the problem is we saw the interview where he's like, my mom said I'm a nice guy, or whatever the fuck it was. Remember,
Yeah,
he was like, Mr. Nice Guy?
Yeah. Or whatever. Yes. And that's what I'm saying is sometimes you don't need to think outside the box and give a guy a personality. Well, it'll be a conversation starter if his personality is this, but he looks like that. Why, that's incongruous. No, just stupid. Just stupid. Just let the guy flop it big old fat belly on top of people, baby. He get over.
All right. Well, that was, I guess, an hour and so of Raw, right?
No, there was more. There was more. Speaking of your favorite tag team, the Aristocrats of Pain, or whatever the fuck they are, they wrestled. We saw an old friend of ours. Well, what are you laughing at?
What are they? What are the Artists of Pain? Is that what it is?
The Artists of Pain, yes, with the master painter Paul Ellering.
I hold the paint.
He holds the paint while they paint the art. And they wrestled the New Day, and we're not going to talk about the match, but an old friend of ours, they were having their match, and suddenly fucking Cross gets involved, and Odyssey Jones came out. And do you remember Odyssey Jones from NXT? Were we watching that 3 years ago?
No, this was after we were both watching it because I had given up on watching and you started telling me about him, and then they drafted him to Raw, and then we never saw him. Right, because he got drafted last year, didn't he?
Well, that's right. Yes, because it wasn't the most recent one. We haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, it's been over a year we haven't seen him. I never really got to see him at all.
Well, he came out and he threw Cross over the railing, and meanwhile the babyface won with a small package, and then the heel started getting some heat, and Odyssey Jones cleared the ring and double sidewalk slammed the various fat guys at the same time, and then did Abyss's black hole slam, souped up Bubba slam on Cross. And two years ago or whatever it was, I said, well, this guy's got potential. And they let him make an impact too, but I don't know if he looked like he was 2 years better in what we saw him doing. Has he been out injured potentially, or did he just wake up from a coma?
I will look that up. I have no idea.
Well, one way or another, I'm glad to see him doing something. And the double sidewalk slam was nice. The Abyss slam was nice. Beforehand, it looked like he was almost a little confused as to, well, I'm going to splash this guy in the corner and that guy, and it was all right.
He's 30 years old, from Coram, New York, Suffolk County. There you go.
Well, there you go.
He returned on the October 25th, 2022 episode of NXT, inviting Idris Enough and Malik Blade to a party. The following week, he made his in-ring return by defeating Javier Bernal.
Then later on, he brought a cake and celebrated one of the girls' birthdays.
As part of the 2023 WWE Draft, Jones was drafted to the Raw brand. In September 2023, he took part in the Superstar Spectacle in Hyderabad, India, losing to Braun Breaker. As part of the 2024 WWE Draft in April, Jones was once again drafted to Raw. In August, Jones debuted on Raw. Nothing about injuries here, and he wrestled, I guess, Braun Breaker in India.
Well, but does that mean that he has not been wrestling in NXT, hadn't been wrestling anywhere?
Well, the one thing you always have to wonder is how many guys got caught up in the weird period between Vince and Triple H, and things were kind of back and forth for a little bit. And with
what, but fucking book him?
No, but I'm saying he got drafted 2 years ago. They finally used him now on TV. You have to think if it's not an injury. You have to think it's an injury.
Well, 20 years ago in OVW, if they didn't have something for a guy for 3 weeks, I was getting a call, hey, we're sending so-and-so down because we're paying him. I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad he's there. Hopefully he's getting the rub off the New Day instead of becoming the third guy in the New Day, because I'd like to see what might happen.
Well, he got a really good reaction. He looked really good. I mean, doing that double power move to the AOP, those are big guys. And he was able to do it and not look ridiculous or like he was struggling. He was very happy. And when they did the promo in the back with the New Day, I'm guessing you didn't see it based on the way you were moving past this. That's why I'm saying this. Xavier Woods was teasing that he wasn't very happy. Or that he wasn't, it wasn't even that overt, but he didn't seem pleased that Odyssey Jones got involved.
Ah, so it's going to be one of those type of deals.
So they could be going somewhere, but looked incredibly impressive. Another guy, we talk about guys on the horizon. We haven't talked about him because he hasn't been around, but you used to talk about him, but add him into the mix now.
Well, but hold on now, Cowboy, because I was saying a couple years ago, I like this guy. He's got a good personality for that size. He can move around. You can see a baby face there, right? That people would like, but there's got to be some reason why he hadn't had one match in 3 years or whatever the fuck. Let's see what happens here. I'm rooting for him, but I have to turn a skeptical eye to what's going on. If they haven't even been booking him in fucking, Toulouse, Florida or whatever. But anyway, did you watch Miz and R-Truth against Waller and Theory?
I must have missed that one.
Well, good, because I did too. Waller and Theory won, by the way. Theory beat Truth, so apparently Truth is the only guy on the roster totem pole that's lower than our boy Austin Theory. And then Damian Priest cut a promo in the back telling JD he never wanted you in the Judgment Day, or if he never wanted you. Poor use of pronouns, pal. I never wanted you in the Judgment Day either. Well, then why was he in the fucking clubhouse? Because you were supposed to be running shit. See that? And then we get JD versus Priest at the 10 o'clock hour. And Finn attacked for disqualification. Spoiler alert. And then all of the new Judgment Day, Dominic and Finn and Carlito and JD get on Priest, but Priest fights back. And I got to give it to him, every time that Priest gets a hold of or tries to get a hold of Finn Balor, he gets a big pop. And so they've got something there, and that's kind of what we said last week, wasn't it, or on the last show, that Priest will be more, he's better off having the people behind him as he tries to get even with these motherfuckers than he was trying to make them believe he's a world champion. Succinctly, is that basically the point?
Yeah. I think we both agree that whenever his next world title run is in the future, he'll be stronger based on the way he's booked coming out of this right now.
There you go. So basically, he was getting a hold of Finn, and Liv Morgan foiled it, and then here came Rhea Ripley and threw Liv into the fucking ring post and cleared off the desk and went for a power bomb on her, and the crowd's going ape shit. And that little weasel Dominic saves Liv. And so Rhea headbutted JD, and that had to sting Rhea. a fucking cranium that size. And then Priest choke slammed him, and then Rhea and Priest hugged in a platonic way. And that got a big reaction because they like Rhea. Now they got a reason to like Priest. So it's waking in that respect.
Plus in a world where everyone turns on everyone, I think people appreciate that they haven't, because they've been heels and baby faces together.
Yes, and the crowd made Rhea, because of her obvious talent, they made her a baby face, even though she wasn't really acting like it. So that's when they subtly manipulated her, instead of just having her goddamn have a Betty Davis tantrum one day and switch from one personality to the other. It evolved with also the way that she was being treated by Dominic, and the thing would live, and the way that they were doing Priest, and blah, blah, blah. And at least they've made it make sense. That's all we can ask.
When Liv Morgan got in the ring and started kicking also, I was like, man, that's perfect. It's perfect. I told you, her with Dominic is a heat machine. Rhea couldn't get heat like that anymore. People like her too much.
Yeah.
Dominic, they don't want to like ever. They barely liked him when he was a babyface. So with Dominic and her together, and she's great as kind of, not Weasley, but just like the troublemaking girlfriend. She's perfect as that. So I like this. I thought this is really good.
All right, boy, you're trying to get hip with the cool kids too, aren't you now? The young folks out there.
Which cool kids are those? Which ones?
These cool kids that have these complicated relationships. And
those are the cool kids in your eyes? The ones with the complicated relationships?
The young,
with lots of teen angst?
The young folks have all the complicated relationships these days. It's easy when you get to be our age.
And JD McDonough is really, whenever he takes a bump or has to sell anything, he does it so well. He's good.
Well, he's got, it's like he's wearing his own nature-given football helmet.
You see?
So he can't be injured.
You can't let a good comment go without just
I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. It's, he can just fling himself out there with abandon because he knows, he could take a sledgehammer to that goddamn bucket. Anyway, I'm saying, you gotta go.
I understand what you're saying, of course.
Go hat shopping with him. See what happens. He walked into a hospital to visit a friend of his. Doctors asked him when the accident was.
What?
He went.
Wait, what kind of accident that made his head swell up?
Well, yeah, God damn it. He went to a plastic surgeon, said, "Make me look 10 years younger." The guy added a tail. So,
you see, this is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes we laugh out of that awkward feeling of not knowing where the line is, but let's get to the tail end of this match.
Well, did you see? Did you see, Brian, the fight that the girls got in the back where the girls were beating up the girls? Did you see that?
I actually don't remember.
Well, I normally wouldn't even remark on it because it happens so often. But they're in the back. And it's like the Damage Control and whoever the fuck it is. People affiliated with Sonya Deville and whatever's going on. The match is coming up, Sonya and Io Sky. But 3 girls jump on 3 girls. And they're fucking beating and kicking each other and throwing each other into things. And in the background, there are 2... not just full-grown men, but they appeared to be portly, if not outright stout, sitting at a fucking merchandise table or a lunchroom table or 8-foot table like you would break in a wrestling match, and they're just sitting there watching. Now, okay, let's say, for example, maybe they don't want to risk life, limb, and property by going in and breaking up this big fight between these wild, kooky-looking women. But if you were sitting in the back of an arena, minding your own business, you're a production assistant, you got a headset on, or you're just sitting there, you're just resting your weary bones, and 6 women break out into a full-on brawl, throwing shit in front of it, wouldn't you at least stand up if it was real, if it wasn't like, oh, look, they're shooting something else for the television program, you'd stand up and go, what the fuck are they doing? Wouldn't you?
You would certainly react in a number of ways, which they did not. They didn't do anything. They sat there.
They sat there and looked at it like, oh, wow.
Clearly, I'm safe. I'm over here.
Yeah, and the other guy was over there now. And there's no way that those women could come that 10 or 12 feet to harm them in their periphery. And then Sonya wrestled Io Sky. And then we had another Wyatt VHS, which led us into, and I had to see this. I started to call him Clark Gable. Chad Gable.
Clark Gable.
Well, he's got big ears. See? Huh? Imagine if Clark Gable's ears were not only stuck out that far, but were cauliflower too. Would he have gone that far? All right, so Clark Gable and the Creed brothers were going to wrestle Gacy, Loomis, and Rowan, three of the Wyatt people. The Wyatt six, but there's not six, there's five, but it's not spelled that way anyway. You know where I'm going with this. So how are they going to do this? What's going to happen? Show us the money. So the Creeds and Gable are in the ring, and then the lighting effects start, and the piano music starts. Ding, 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 ding. And the fog starts rolling in from the bay. And the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is imminent. And then you see a rocking chair with a lantern sitting in it. And then the silhouettes in front of the light. And then here come five weirdos out looking like extras from The Walking Dead. And then Uncle Howdy sits in the rocking chair with, Abby the witch is kneeling in front of him, but unfortunately kneeling facing away from him. So he wasn't going to get to enjoy this thing either, just like the rest of us. And Gacy and Loomis and Rowan take their masks off and hit the ring and get in a big fight. And the heels bail out, and they are scared of Uncle Howdy and Abby, and the match gets started. Brian, am I safe in assuming that if this same exact match was had without the three guys on one side being in the Wyatt gimmick and people are just, it's mass hypnosis, that this was an indie level fucking match with, it looked like Chad Gable was the WWF star doing a third party booking in a rec center with a bunch of fucking guys that were in the main event because they sold the most tickets to their family and friends?
I don't know. You thought it was that bad? I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but
Loomis looks like somebody.
Yeah, now he has long hair.
And he's kicking that in, and he's more. Remember, we said he was goddamn Captain Somnambulism before. Well, Loomis looks like somebody. Rowan's big. And Gacy is a pudgy indie guy that kind of wandered into this. And
if you squinted, it was like a spooky Hillbillies. Uncle Elmer and Hillbilly Jim and Cousin Junior.
I look more like Uncle Fester to me. But, and I'm still, the Creeds are great athletes, but they're greener than a pepper tree, as Frank Spaceman Hickey would say. They're not smooth, and it's not, I don't know what's going on. So, but it was a match. It wasn't embarrassing, but if for all this build up with this whole Wyatt thing, they briefly let the baby faces shine. They stopped Loomis for 20 seconds. They had a sloppy six-way. The baby faces beat up the heels some more. They went to break in 2 minutes. They came back and got a heat on Gacy. He tagged Rowan and made a comeback and beat up all three of them. The Creeds came back up and got in a sloppy fight with Gacy. Loomis dove on everybody. And in the finish, Rowan gets the claw and claw slams Gable. and tags Gacy. And Gacy gets in the ring, but without doing anything, turns around and tags Loomis. So to them, that means that they're both legal. And the referee just stands there and stares at it, that this thing they've made up. And then Gacy powerbombed Loomis onto Gable, and then Loomis splashed Gable off the top rope, 1, 2, 3. So they beat Gable already, and he's the only one really in here that I think would be enjoyable to watch if he wasn't tethered to nonsense all the time. But that's just me.
There was a brief period where they started transitioning him from the shush guy into being more serious. The stuff with him and Sami Zayn led to people caring about him. Then they really went with the idea that he was going to push away Otis and their friends.
And was getting a ton of heat for it.
And then they kind of just decided, I guess that's the limit. And they dragged him back down. I don't understand. And
he got scared of zombies and started begging Otis to come back, and Otis became the fucking reasonable fucking verbose one. I'm sorry.
Do you want to see any of this Wyatt Six stuff interacting with any of the main eventers?
Well, of course not.
No, that's what's scary. You hope that they realize this is not at that level. This is fine for, them against the New Day or them against whatever this is here.
I'll tell you what, I believe that in the current environment, the top guys probably have more leeway to say, that don't work for me, brother, than they did when Vince was around. Because these people are not despotic or dictatorial, how about that, in a lot of their other manners of dealings with the wrestling business. So, if Randy Orton or, any top guy comes to them and said, what the fuck, no, I think they would have to kind of respect that, don't they? Triple H probably know. You could say to Triple H, how would you make this work, right, if you were a really main event level guy?
Yeah, and again, the other thing is everything is so hot. It just feels unnecessary to interject this kind of stuff onto the show. That's what I think. And again, people get mad at us. They're not really zombies. Oh, yeah, you're right. And it's not really smoke. It's the fucking guy with the smoke machine popping up in the corner.
And they don't really look like that. They're wearing masks, but underneath the masks are average wrestlers that are average.
Yeah, and they try to say, they're explaining that this is a representation of their hurt feelings. Whenever people are trying to fucking argue with us, everything that's working is serious. Punk and McIntyre, serious. The Bloodline aren't joking around in the middle of their segments or anything. Everything is serious. So when you see something that all of a sudden is from a different universe, it doesn't work. And whether they're zombies or not, it's presented as a different thing than everything else, and it's unnecessary right now. You could scale things down in terms of lights and lasers and smoke right now. You don't need to scale them up.
I think they need to be shot around a campfire. And I'm not talking with firearms.
You're a brutal,
I mean shot.
Brutal man, yeah, really.
No, I mean shot.
I think it should be shot around a campfire. We'll cook them.
Shot by the cameras as they're just sitting around a campfire with some smoke, and they can tell old stories of the bunkhouse and days gone by, like Nelson Royal. Well, that was Raw.
Well, that was Raw, and it certainly was. And the first half of it was certainly very good. The end of it may have left something to be desired, but you'll never have something to be desired when, well, that's not even a good way to put it. But ladies and gentlemen, every single month you can get something awesome delivered to you, to your doorstep. You can choose to open the door and accept the package, or just wait for it to be dropped off, but it'll be there every month from our friends at Box of Awesome.
See, and you'll get nothing that you desire, but you'll get things you need, or things you want, or things you'll like, or things you'll use. So, desire is a sin anyway, isn't it, Brian? Isn't that one of the 7 deadly sins? It's like coveting and lustling. If you're lusting for things and coveting things, well, you're bad. You're going to hell. Well, our friends at Bespoke Post and Box of Awesome don't want you to go to hell. because it's too hard for you to send them money from there. So
that's not the reason they care about your soul.
well, they care about your soul and also your wallet. And that's why they want you to buy these things that you need and you want and you will use and will come in handy. But you don't got to get wrapped up in some kind of existential religious fucking experience over whether you're going to the good place or the bad place. With each box of awesome, you're also supporting small businesses that may be going to hell in a handbasket. You could be their only lifeline. If you're not buying the boxes of awesome every month, then 90% of those small businesses may be 90% out of business. Do you ever think about that? Do you want it on your conscience that some small business over in fucking Ottumwa, Iowa, has had to close their doors, their kids won't go to college, all because you didn't sign up for your incredible box of awesome monthly with discounts of up to 30%, Brian? Would you want that on your conscience?
Ottumwa, Iowa. That's where Twin Galaxies is, I believe. But no, I would not want that. But I do not think guilt is an appropriate measure to convince people to listen to your message.
Well, what about greed? If you're getting this stuff at a discount of up to 30% off or more sometime, well, then you could turn around and resell this to some other sucker at a profit. And then you'd still be supporting mom and pop.
No, let's not talk about resale. Let's talk about a single purchase, which leads to the product being in your hands. And again, wonderful products from wonderful, wonderful small town people.
Small town. Some of mom and some of them have moved to the big city now.
They've
got a little small garrets.
Now they got small
garrets, even garrets in the basement underneath, where people used to write novels and shit back in the old days. But, well, here's the thing. I just mentioned the discount because if you're getting a bunch of valuable items that people would love to have, and you're getting them at a big discount, well, then you're filling your home up with valuable stuff that you're not paying full retail for. So if anything ever happens to you, tell the kids, well, maybe don't tell your spouse. That might spur them into some kind of action involving poison or a blunt instrument. But tell your kids, hey, when I'm gone, when I kick the bucket, buy the farm, bite the big apple, you got to sell all this stuff that I got from Box of Awesome. You'll make a fortune. So think of it as when you sign up for your monthly box across a ton of different categories after you go to boxofawesome.com. and you take that quiz, you tell them what you're interested in, then you can put these things back in a special closet, up on a shelf with a note, do not disturb, saving this for my children's inheritance. And then once you kick the bucket and go off to your great reward underneath the ground, then they're going to be above board and above ground selling all your shit, making a fortune. I mean, what more can you do to be kind to your children than leaving them a bunch of stuff they can sell when you croak?
Again, let's not look at any of this in any of these ways. Let's look at it as a wonderful way to get wonderful products brought to you from companies you may not normally discover. This package is put together,
yes,
from our friends.
They stay under the radar, these companies. A lot of them even operate under assumed names or doing business as, type of thing.
They are small businesses with small budgets. They may not have the advertising and marketing budget that other companies would have. So
that's right.
They have to rely on these kind of wonderful sources, whatever I'm saying here.
Well, the opportunity for a big platform like Box of Awesome to carry their goods and distribute them around the world. And some of them, as you said, may not have big budgets. That's why they shorten their names. Because it's easier to get it on the fucking stationery and it costs less at the printers. So they take on other names from time to time, but nothing they're prohibited from doing in a court of law. As a matter of fact, every time you get a Box of Awesome that contains a product from someone who has been convicted in a court of law, you'll get a special notification. This was produced by a criminal.
No. First of all, there's nothing we could tell you about criminal product other than, what am I trying to say, ladies and gentlemen? Listen, you don't have to worry about any Box of Awesome are really nice people, and they support this show. And they do their best to have reputable people. They vet them.
That's right. They do their absolute best. Yeah, I mean, you can't catch everybody.
No, but again, let's not look at it that way. Let's look at it as they found some wonderful small businesses right here in the good old USA. We're talking America. We're talking trucks and birds and flags and all sorts of hot dogs. Come on, get down with America. Get down with Box of Awesome. Jim, what's that promo code? Let's hear it with spirit.
Well, I didn't even really tell them what they'll get with the promo code, but boxofawesome.com, you enter the code JCE at checkout, and you're going to get 15% off your first box of Awesome, which are products that are already being presented to you at discounts from the prices that Mom and or Pop have placed on them. So who knows how much? I don't think anybody truthfully knows how much money you're going to save. I think that's safe to say. Boxofawesome.com, enter the code JCE at checkout, 15% off your first box of Awesome.
That's right, Box of Awesome. A new box just arrived recently with some fine products for our next big camping trip. Thank you, Box of Awesome. But Jim,
did you see how easy it is to tie that sling up in a tree where you can sleep above the muskrat and raccoon fucking zone?
I don't know anything about the musk.
Well, no, that's the first thing whenever you're going camping, you've got to make sure that however you're sleeping, you're at least 5 feet in the air so you can avoid muskrats and raccoons. So that's why they sent you that special custom-made tree sling.
Oh, you know what? With the new TV, I just turned intelligence mode off, and that helped a little bit. The Mets are right now playing an afternoon game against the Rockies, and all of a sudden everything was blue. Like the Rockies' purple uniforms are blue, and the grass was like fluorescent green. But now that I turned off intelligent mode, everything looks normal like it would be on Earth again.
Well, that's because all you've got to do to make things normal on Earth is turn off the intelligence.
Box of Awesome has nothing to do with any of that. But Box of Awesome, promo code JCE.